Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Why don't we go around the room and just introduce ourselves and tell us your name and what role you played in the production and maybe where you're from. So, Ari, you want to start us off?
Sure. I'm Aria Minassian, and I play Taller Daughter, and I am from Bainbridge Island, Washington.
Go ahead, Haley.
Sorry. I am Haley Cohen, and I played Littler Daughter, and I'm from Edgemont, New York.
My name is Paul Leland Hill, and I played the Sodbuster, and I am from Clinton, Utah.
And my name is Abigail Coche, and I'm the stage director of Proving Up, and I am from San Francisco, California. So we've got a lot of, the West and the East here represented. It's very exciting. So we endeavored to do this very difficult thing, which was to stage an opera under COVID policies, which meant masked and socially distant, which was very challenging, but also a huge feat for all of us to really pull it off. So what I would like to do is, let's start with you, Paul. Can you just tell us what was the biggest challenge for you in this sort of endeavor, and how did you kind of make it work?
Sure. I think it's interesting. People have been asking me about singing with a mask because everyone is surprised that that's how we decided to do it. For me, actually, by the time we were doing this production, I'd been singing with a mask enough that it didn't feel that strange, and I felt like I could just sing through what was there. But for me, like, it was really challenging to always have to keep in mind, like, I have to be this far from my scene partner. I have to be like, I have to plan my pathway on the stage a lot more carefully than I normally would, and I didn't really get to have as close of an exchange of energy as I'm used to having on stage. So for me, that was difficult, but also like an interesting thing to kind of explore and see, like, what is it like when we have to have 6 feet when we're not singing, and then 12 feet when we're singing or playing harmonicas. So
Right. So many rules to remember. Oh my gosh.
right.
Haley, how about you? What was it like to try to do this during such an adverse time?
Yeah, um I found the biggest challenge just like remaining flexible with just everything that was happening with COVID, like not having, Miles and Ma there in person until 2 weeks before, and having like the group. We had luckily amazing covers, but not having, the performance group working together until a couple days before was probably the biggest challenge, just remaining flexible. But by the end, it felt fine to sing in the mask, because like it felt natural to just be that far away. But yeah, definitely took a little bit of time.
What's so interesting to me about that point is that we all sort of thought that the mask and the social distancing was going to be the biggest challenge. And then we hit these quarantines and it was just like, okay, here we go. And we're so lucky we had the amazing covers that we did. Wow, really. Whew. And we're lucky that our friends were able to come back and join us. I mean, that would have just been such a blow, I think, to everybody in the production. So we got lucky. We'll be honest about that. Aria, how about you? What was it like for you to endure this endeavor?
I think a lot of the success that we were able to have was just because of the cast that we had. I think that we were all so um, just overjoyed to be back on stage performing with real people and in person. I think that was just so important for all of us, that we were so grateful for that. And I think even with all the twists and turns and all that, we wanted to make this a beautiful show, and I mean, everyone was really supportive, and that was just what we all needed. That was a huge, huge blessing for it. It's great.
Yeah, it was a really wonderful experience, despite how difficult it was. It was really kind of magical. Um, okay, so now let's broach the societal question here in this COVID time. we made the decision to produce something that was a live performance and then filmed for later dissemination because we could not have an audience in the hall. And so we spent a lot of time figuring out how we could do something that was live and in person, but safely and in a way that kept everyone healthy, which we were able to achieve by following all of these procedures. Other institutions have opted to move to digital platforms. And for me, opera, it's hard to translate to a digital platform just for this medium specifically. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Everybody's trying to make the math in this puzzle work the best they can during these adverse times. And I personally am really proud that we figured out a way to keep live theater kind of going in this adverse time. Aria, what do you think? I mean, did the challenges make it not worth it, or would you consider working in this kind of a paradigm again? Talk to us about your experience with the digital versus the in-person.
I would do this again in a heartbeat. I mean, even though it was very challenging, not just with all the COVID restrictions, but also the music and the story and, figuring out how to perform in a way that maybe at least I'm not used to, which is for film. So that was something to get used to. I know that we were all kind of adjusting the first night that we filmed. We were like, I don't know how close we are. You can only see my eyes up. Like, do I look surprised instead of like scared, But I think that really helped kind of grow our artistry individually and also as a group to expand what we've learned in our education and beyond that.
Awesome. Paul, how about you?
Sure. It's been really interesting to contrast this experience because this summer I did a green screen opera with Opera Neo, which is not quite a Zoom opera, but it's kind of like an in-between because you don't get to be in the same room as your scene partners or even as the director or conductor. And the thing that was difficult with the green screen opera is everything was dissected. We recorded the sound, we recorded the video, lip syncing to our sound that we'd done before. It was such a strenuous process. And I know that the editing process for them has been really challenging too. For me, being in person, even if we didn't get to perform for a live audience, was just so, I don't know, I felt more like I could really make art instead of singing to a cement wall, which is what I was doing for a green screen opera. I was trying to imagine it, but it's a lot easier to actually feel the energy of your scene partners, feel the energy of a live orchestra, albeit a small one. It helps to feel more connected, and I think that will translate well to the video.
I agree. And there are other institutions that have kind of taken the green screen model with our model and to do something live, but on green screen and kind of piecemeal. And you're still singing to a brick wall. There's still no audience there to feed off of that energy. But the energy in the room, for me personally, was what made it all of the challenges worth it. Because every time I would walk in there, I was just so excited to be there that I didn't care that everything that had happened before was so difficult just to be there, Haley, how about you? How was this experience for you?
Yeah, it was incredibly, incredibly rewarding. I just remember one of the first weeks of staging, I came up to you and I was like, I just feel so awkward. I don't know what to do. And by the end, just being able to inhabit the space and take up space and connect to the character and connect to my other characters around me, it just was an incredible learning experience. And yeah, I'm so grateful.
Yay. Yeah. I'm really grateful for all of you. I mean, I felt like we won the lottery with this thing,
We got the 1 week.
Yeah, I know. Oh my goodness. Okay, so my last question is actually about the show. Yay, we can talk about the show. So Proving Up I'm really convinced that this opera is going to enter the canon of American tragedy. It shares a lot of themes that we see in works by, playwrights by Arthur Miller, and American novelists like Fitzgerald about this idea of proving up in the terms of legitimacy. You know, I think about Great Gatsby with the green light. I have to get to the green light. Or with Death of a Salesman, I have to make this sale. It doesn't matter what my life is. I have to make this sale. And those tropes are all over this opera, which at this point in time also sort of compounds the difficultness. Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to do an American tragedy when you live in America already, but when you're going through an adverse time as a society, it's also very tricky. So talk to us about what parts of this story felt relevant to you, either personally or for what we're going through now as a community and as a nation, or anything from the story that really gripped you in this American tragedy kind of vein. Paul, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I don't know where to start, but I
mean, you play the villain.
Right. I don't see him as a villain.
I don't either. I love that you don't see him as a villain.
I see him kind of as an inevitability of the like society that's kind of built up in the opera and in America. I think that when societies are based solely on like resources that are given out by the government, I think that it causes people to do things like what the Sodbuster does. So I personally don't see him as a villain. I see him as a symptom of like larger societal problems. And for me, that's like a lot of what I have seen as like a parallel with this work and what's kind of happening in America right now, is we see that only some people have resources, and a lot of them had to do it in ways that might seem unseemly or that were like stealing. And I think that one of the things that I thought about the whole time is one of the lines that Miles sings is who owns the land. And I've been thinking a lot about the colonialism of America and how the first settlers in America, much like the settlers who came to Nebraska, they didn't own the land, they didn't pay for the land, they didn't do anything except steal it from people who were already there. And I think that that's a really powerful part of the story, is that sometimes we think that we deserve things because we've worked hard. And sometimes even when we work hard, things don't turn out the way that we hope they will.
I agree. Even this idea of owning land. You know, I mean, we still pay property taxes on land that we own. Like, I was a kid and I was like, I don't understand this. Isn't it ours? Don't we own it? And my father would be like, no, child, we don't. Haley, how about you?
Yeah, I like echo everything Paul said, but I also connected to Miles' story, his character specifically, just this idea in our society right now, in general, that once we get to that next thing, once we reach that goal, we'll be happy and we'll make our parents proud and we'll all find happiness and all those things. And yeah, just as a student and as an artist and as, you know, what we're all doing, it's definitely relatable to feel that pressure. And yeah.
I agree. I mean, especially as an artist, right? How many times do we tell ourselves, oh, you know, one more audition, one more audition?
Yeah.
Aria, please tell us what you think about this American tragedy and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I was really captured by the whole American dream idea and how long that has been around, and it's still going on, and it's a very strange thing to really, you know, that we're still, so many people are still like, as long as you go to America and you do this, you will prove up, or, you know, be able to show that you made it. But then that also talks, you know, what Paul had said about kind of this greed factor of always wanting more and thinking more is better. So it's like, you know, once you reach here, well, you're looking at the next thing and then the next. And so it was interesting to see that from the lens of the Zegner family and how it tore apart. A family that I think really could have had a beautiful life, and it was really tragic to see how it unraveled, and how I think in the beginning they did want the best for their life, for their kids, for their family, and it just was
Goes
torn
off
away.
the rails. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I love that you said, I mean, this, to me, this family has so much love. And when I think about, American family tragedy, there's always so much love involved, which is what makes it so much more difficult or heartbreaking or tragic, because it feels like your own family, and your own family that loves each other but faces adversity. And sometimes the adversity wins. And it's no one ever wants that. We don't sit there and cheer for the sod buster, but we also, I think it's important, like Paul was saying, to have empathy for those people that are doing whatever they can to survive, and then sort of adopt that, kill or be killed mentality, in the name of resource, or in the name of legitimacy, or in the name of whatever it is. What a tragedy to lose yourself to an outside source. That's also a tragedy in itself, I think, anyway. Okay, well, let's end with one more question. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. I really appreciate it. I've just loved working with all of you, if the viewers can't tell. What do you hope, Haley, we'll start with you. What do you hope that the audience takes away from this production? I mean, what feels would be good to take home?
I just think in general, gratitude, I think, is a huge thing. Just being able, the fact that we were able to put on this performance when so many musicians and performers are not able to work, that from my place is, I'm just extremely grateful that this is being put out into the world. And I hope that viewers can see, can see that this family was grateful for what they had. They wanted more. They would do anything to have more. But even though it's a really dark story, there is love, there is hope, there is,
Beautiful. Paul, how about you?
For me, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is Brene Brown talks about like a culture of scarcity, and what happens with resources and the way that we treat each other in these cultures of scarcity. And I think that Proving Up is a very good parallel and mirror of how we as neighbors, as communities, treat each other. And I hope that people watching this will decide to not take the path of the sodbuster. And realize, like Haley said, to be grateful for what they have, and then to share things with those that we can share them with. Because I think that sometimes when we feel like we don't have enough resources, and when we don't have enough resources, we stop being human and stop loving each other. And I hope that we'll just be neighbors, be community people, and love each other.
Oh, I second both of those. Those are wonderful, wonderful takeaways. Aria, how about you?
I just, what my colleagues said, and also I think that there was, at least for me, I was thinking a lot about reevaluating the things that are important right now, and how grateful I am for, things that may seem very simple, like having good health, or support in your field, or your education, and education. Those are just remembering to be very grateful for that. And the music was really, it was challenging. I think that was, it was really awesome to just see that artists can still come together, and we can perform still, and create something beautiful when there is so much difficulty around us. So, reminder that there's still beauty out there.
Yay, I second that too. And I have a feeling, I have this sneaking suspicion that the audience won't know how hard the music is because y'all sang it so well. So, I mean, that's the goal, right? For me, I really hope that in addition to everything you guys all said, gratitude, community, thinking of your neighbors, being grateful, practicing all of that kind of wonderful stuff. I really hope that people are inspired by what we have done and that they feel this fire of artistry that's never going to go out no matter what the world throws at us, whether it's in this kind of a paradigm or a Zoom opera or a green screen opera or however it is. Expression and art is not going anywhere no matter what the world throws at us. And I mean, I will just keep being annoying and loud if I have to. But that we I think have set a beautiful example for how you can solve problems that are out of your control and still put together something that's beautiful and moving and poignant.